All right, folks, Mar began, his voice dry and cutting. Tonight, we've got Carolyn Leavitt, the White House press secretary, who's been making waves, some would say tsunamis, in Washington. Carolyn, welcome to Real Time. The crowd clapped, but the applause was uneven, punctuated by a few boos. Carolyn's smile didn't waver. She nodded graciously, her green eyes scanning the room like a general assessing a battlefield. "Thanks for having me, Bill," she said, her New Hampshire accent soft but deliberate. "I'm here to set the record straight, not add to the noise." Mar raised an eyebrow. Set the record straight? That's ambitious for a 27-year-old in a room full of skeptics. Let's start with the elephant in the room, Project 2025. You've said it's not tied to Trump's campaign, but you are in their training videos, coaching future conservative operatives. That's a tough one to walk back, don't you think? The crowd murmured, sensing blood in the water. Carolyn leaned forward, her hands clasped calmly on the desk. "Bill, I've been clear. Project 2025 is a think tank initiative, not our campaign's playbook. I spoke at their event because I believe in preparing young conservatives to serve with professionalism. That's not a conspiracy, it's common sense. Agenda 47 is what President Trump's focused on, and that's what I'm here to talk about." Mar chuckled, but there was an edge to it. Agenda 47, sure. But let's not kid ourselves. Your boss isn't exactly known for sticking to the script. And you've been out there defending every tweet, every rally. Doesn't that get exhausting? I mean, you're younger than my last iPhone. Laughter rippled through the audience, but Carolyn's expression stayed steady. She tilted her head slightly, her voice measured but firm. Exhausting? No. It's an honor to serve a president who speaks directly to the American people, not through a filter. You've spent decades calling out media spin, Bill. You should appreciate someone who cuts through the noise. The crowd stirred, a mix of cheers and grumbles. Mar leaned forward, his smirk fading. He wasn't used to being turned on his own turf, and Carolyn's calm defiance was throwing him off. "Okay, let's pivot," Mar said, shuffling his notes. "You've been vocal about restoring fairness in the White House press room, which sounds great until you start picking who gets a seat. The Associated Press is suing you over that Gulf of Mexico naming dispute. You told their reporter, Zeke Miller, they're banned until they call it the Gulf of America. That's not fairness, that's petty censorship." The audience erupted, some clapping, others shouting in protest. Carolyn's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. She took a slow breath, her eyes locking onto Mar's. "Bill, let's talk about fairness. For years, legacy media outlets like the AP have framed narratives to fit their agenda, ignoring the voices of millions of Americans. We're not censoring anyone, we're leveling the playing field. New media, independent voices, they deserve a seat too. If the AP can't handle a little pushback, maybe they're not as tough as they think." The room exploded. A man in the back row, his silver hair catching the light, stood up, clapping furiously. A woman nearby yelled, "That's authoritarian." The stage manager signaled for calm, but the energy was electric, teetering on chaos. Mar raised a hand, trying to regain control. All right, settle down. Carolyn, you're dodging the question. Banning a major outlet because they won't play your naming game? That's not leveling the field, that's rigging the game." Carolyn's voice cut through the noise, steady and piercing. "Rigging? Bill, the media's been rigging the game for decades. You've said it yourself, corporate media picks winners and losers. We're just saying, not on our watch." The audience roared again, polarized and feverish. Mar's eyes narrowed. He was losing the thread, and he knew it. He leaned in, his tone sharper now. "You want to talk about games? Let's talk about your threat. Word is, you told my producers backstage that if I pushed too hard tonight, you've got the juice to get this show yanked off HBO. True or not?" The room fell silent, the air thick with shock. Carolyn's face froze for a split second, her composure cracking just enough for Mar to notice. She recovered quickly, but the pause was damning. That's absurd, she said, her voice cool but strained. I don't threaten people, Bill. I came here to have a conversation, not to shut one down. Mar pounced. Oh, come on, Caroline. Don't play coy. You're Trump's attack dog, sorry, attack puppy, and everyone knows it. You didn't come here to chat. You came to flex. The audience gasped, then laughed nervously. Caroline's cheeks flushed, but she didn't take the bait. Instead, she did something unexpected. She smiled, a small, disarming smile that seemed to catch Mar off guard. Bill, if I wanted to flex, I wouldn't need to come on your show to do it. I'm here because I believe in dialogue, even when it's messy. You've spent years challenging the establishment. I thought you'd respect someone who's doing the same, in their own way. The crowd was quiet now, hanging on her words. Mar blinked, momentarily thrown. He opened his mouth to respond, but Caroline pressed on, her voice softening but carrying a quiet strength. I know what people think of me. Some call me a villain, others a patriot. But I'm just a woman from New Hampshire who believes in fighting for what's right. You don't have to agree with me, Bill, but at least hear me out. Isn't that what this show's supposed to be about? The silence stretched, heavy and profound. Mar stared at her, his smirk gone, replaced by something unreadable. The audience held its breath, waiting for his counterpunch. But before he could speak, a slow clap started in the back, spreading until half the room was applauding, not for victory, but for the raw honesty of the moment. Mar cleared his throat, his voice quieter now. All right, Caroline, you've got guts. I'll give you that. Let's take a break, folks. We'll be right back. As the cameras cut to commercial, the studio buzzed with whispers. Caroline exhaled, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her water. Mar leaned over off mic and muttered, You're tougher than you look, kid. She met his gaze, her voice barely above a whisper. You have no idea. Backstage, the tension was palpable. The green room smelled of stale popcorn and nervous sweat. Caroline's aide, a wiry young man named Ethan, paced near the door, his phone buzzing with notifications. That was insane, he said, his voice low. You turned it around, but Mar's not done. He's got Josh Rogan and Tina Smith coming up. They're gonna gang up on you. Caroline sipped her water, her face unreadable. Let them. I didn't come here to win a popularity contest. Ethan stopped pacing, his brow furrowed. Caroline, you heard what he said about the threat. Where'd that come from? Did you say something to the producers? She set the glass down, her movements deliberate. No, but someone's spreading that story, and I want to know who. Across the studio, Mar huddled with his producer, a seasoned woman named Sheila. Her gray bob was slightly disheveled, a rare crack in her polished exterior. Bill, you went too far with that threat bit, she said, her voice tight. We've got no proof she said anything like that. Mar shrugged, his eyes glinting with mischief. No proof, but it got a reaction, didn't it? She's hiding something, Sheila. I can feel it. Sheila crossed her arms. Or you just alienated half our audience for a cheap shot. Fix this, Bill, or we're going to have a PR nightmare. As the commercial break ended, the stage manager called for places. Caroline returned to her seat, her posture straight, her smile back in place. Mar settled in, but there was a new wariness in his eyes. The audience, still buzzing from the first segment, leaned forward, eager for the next clash. Mar kicked off the panel discussion, introducing Josh Rogan, a Washington Post columnist, and Senator Tina Smith, a Minnesota Democrat. Rogan, a wiry man with sharp features, wasted no time. Caroline, let's cut to the chase, he said, his voice clipped. You say you're about dialogue, but your administration's actions, banning reporters, pushing Doge's cuts, look like suppression, not conversation. How do you square that? Senator Smith nodded, her silver hair catching the light. And let's not forget the rhetoric. Calling the press the enemy doesn't exactly scream, let's talk. Caroline took a measured breath, her eyes flicking between them. Josh, Tina, I get it, you're skeptical. You should be. But let's talk facts. We're not banning reporters. We're expanding access to include voices that have been ignored. As for DOGE, it's about accountability, not suppression. Americans are tired of their tax dollars funding bloated programs. You want to talk rhetoric? How about the media calling half the country deplorables for a decade? The crowd erupted again, split down the middle. Rogan shook his head, but Smith leaned forward, her voice calm but pointed. Caroline, accountability's fine, but when you're cutting programs that help seniors, veterans, kids, people notice. My constituents in Minnesota are scared. What do you say to them? Caroline's expression softened, but her voice stayed firm. I say we're not cutting help for those who need it. We're targeting waste, DI initiatives that divide, Green New Deal projects that balloon costs. President Trump's committed to protecting Social Security, Medicare, veterans' benefits. If your constituents are scared, it's because the media's spinning a narrative, not because we're abandoning them. Mar jumped in, sensing an opening. Hold on, Caroline. You keep blaming the media, but you're the one dodging. Give me one specific program you're cutting that's wasteful. Name it. The room went quiet again, all eyes on Caroline. She paused, not out of hesitation, but to let the moment breathe. Then, with a steady gaze, she answered. Last year, the Department of Education spent $200 million on diversity training programs that, according to their own audits, showed no measurable impact on workplace cohesion. That's not helping kids learn. It's bureaucracy run amok. We're redirecting those funds to school choice initiatives, so parents have options. The audience murmured, some nodding, others skeptical. Rogan scribbled a note, clearly unimpressed. Smith opened her mouth to respond, but Mark cut her off, his tone shifting. Okay, that's specific. I'll give you that. But let's talk about something bigger. You're out there every day, defending a man who's been accused of everything from fraud to inciting riots. How do you sleep at night, knowing you're tied to that legacy? The question hung in the air, raw and personal. Caroline's eyes narrowed, but her voice stayed even, almost serene. Bill, I sleep fine because I know what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the factory worker in Ohio who lost his job to bad trade deals. For the single mom in Georgia who can't afford groceries because of inflation. For the veteran in Texas who's been failed by a broken VA system. You can disagree with President Trump style, but you can't deny his results. Jobs are coming back, wages are up, and America's standing tall again. That's my legacy, and I'm proud of it. The crowd erupted, a cacophony of cheers and boos. Mar leaned back, his expression a mix of respect and frustration. Rogan and Smith exchanged glances, clearly unprepared for her pivot. For a moment, the studio felt like a powder keg, ready to ignite. As the segment ended, the cameras pulled back, capturing the charged atmosphere. Caroline stood, shaking hands with Mar and the panelists, her smile polite but guarded. Backstage, Ethan was waiting, his face pale. They're saying you threatened to shut down the show, he whispered. It's trending on X. #CancelMar's already spiking. Caroline's eyes darkened. Find out who started that rumor. Now. As she stepped into the hallway, the distant sound of the audience's chatter faded, replaced by the click of her heels on the tile floor. The night was far from over, and the real fight was just beginning. Carolyn Leavitt moved quickly, her heels clicking on the tile floor, while Ethan, her aide, struggled to keep up. His phone buzzed incessantly, the screen flashing with notifications from X, where the #CancelMar was rapidly gaining traction. The air hummed with tension, as if an invisible storm loomed over the studio. Caroline, wait. Ethan caught up to her at the door to the green room, his voice trembling with anxiety. This is spiraling out of control. People are saying you didn't just threaten Mar, you threatened HBO. Someone posted a screenshot of a supposed message you sent to the producers. It's fake, but it's spreading like wildfire. Caroline stopped, her hand frozen on the doorknob. She turned to Ethan, her green eyes glinting with cold determination. Show me. Ethan handed her his phone. The screen displayed a screenshot of a text message, allegedly from her, addressed to Sheila, the show's producer. If Bill pushes too hard, we'll make sure HBO rethinks his contract. Don't test us. The screenshot looked authentic, complete with a timestamp and a blue verification checkmark. But Caroline knew she'd never sent it. It's a fake, she said, her voice low and controlled, but laced with steel. Someone's playing dirty. Find out where this came from. Call our tech guy, Nick, and have him trace the IP address or whatever it takes. I want to know who's behind this by the end of the night. Ethan nodded, his fingers already frantically typing a message. What about Mar? He dropped that bomb on air. Do you think he's in on it? Caroline pursed her lips, thinking. Maybe. But he's not stupid. If he knew about the screenshot, he didn't create it. This is someone on the inside, either his team or ours. She pushed open the green room door and stepped inside. The room was cramped, a worn couch, a mirror with dim bulbs, and a small table littered with water bottles and a half-eaten plate of sandwiches. Caroline sat, shrugging off her blazer, and rubbed her temples. Her heart pounded, but she refused to let herself relax. The night was pivotal, and every move she made now could either solidify her position or destroy everything she'd worked for. Meanwhile, in the studio, Bill Maher stood at the edge of the stage, sipping coffee from a paper cup. Sheila, his producer, approached, her face taut. Bill, we need to talk. Have you seen what's happening on X? People are losing their minds over your threat comment. We're already getting emails from advertisers. Maher shrugged, his eyes twinkling with his usual bravado. Let them lose their minds. This show thrives on controversy, Sheila. You think this is my first rodeo? This isn't just controversy, she snapped. It's a potential boycott. And if that screenshot is real, we're in deep trouble. Did you even verify anything before throwing that out there on air? Maher frowned, his confidence wavering. Screenshot? What screenshot? Sheila handed him her phone, showing the same fake text exchange. Maher scanned it, his brows knitting together. I didn't see this. I was just told she hinted at something backstage. Someone on staff passed it through an assistant. Someone on staff? Sheila's voice rose, her professional tone slipping. Bill, you just accused the White House press secretary of threatening to shut down our show based on hearsay? Are you trying to get us all fired? Maher opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. He wasn't a fool. He knew this was serious. All right, he said finally. Find out who fed me that info. And get Caroline back here after the show. We need to talk. In the green room, Caroline scrolled through her phone, reading X posts. The comments were brutal. Leavitt wants to censor anyone who opposes Trump, one user wrote. Another, with a profile full of American flags, defended her. Caroline's fighting the media cartel. Keep going, girl. But most posts leaned toward condemnation, and the rumor of her threat was spreading like a virus. A knock came at the door. Ethan opened it, and Sheila stepped inside, her face tense but professional. Ms. Leavitt, can I have a word? Caroline nodded, gesturing for her to sit. Sure, Sheila. But I hope this isn't about that nonsense screenshot. Sheila sighed, her shoulders slumping. It's exactly about that. I want to apologize. We didn't know about the screenshot when Bill made that accusation. Someone on our team fed him a rumor, and he acted impulsively. We're figuring out who it was. Caroline tilted her head, her gaze sharp as a blade. Sheila, I appreciate your candor, but this isn't just impulsiveness. Someone deliberately planted that story to discredit me. And I'm going to find out who. Sheila nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. I understand, and we'll cooperate to get to the bottom of it. But there's something else. Bill wants to talk to you after the show. Off camera, just the two of you. He acknowledges he might have gone too far. Caroline raised an eyebrow, her expression a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Bill Maher admitting a mistake? That's worth seeing. Sheila gave a small smile, but her eyes remained serious. He's not perfect, but he's not the enemy. Give him a chance. After Sheila left, Ethan turned to Caroline, his face pale. "You're really going to meet him? This could be a trap. He might be recording the conversation or something." Caroline shook her head, her voice calm but resolute. "No, Ethan. If it's a trap, I'm ready. But if it's a chance to talk without cameras, without an audience, I'm not passing it up. Sometimes the truth only comes out face to face." The show wrapped up an hour later, and the studio emptied. The audience dispersed, leaving only the echo of the night's debates. Caroline stood in the empty green room, adjusting her blazer in front of the mirror. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the meeting. Her phone buzzed, a message from Nick, their tech specialist. Screenshot came from an anonymous VPN, but I traced it to a server in Dallas. "Working on details. Give me an hour." She nodded to herself, feeling the pieces starting to fall into place. Someone was playing a dangerous game, but she was ready to play smarter. Mar was waiting in a small office behind the stage, where the air smelled of old books and stale tobacco. He sat at a desk, his usual bravado replaced by an uncharacteristic restraint. When Caroline entered, he gestured for her to sit. "Caroline," he began, his voice quieter than it had been on stage. "I might have overstepped with that threat accusation. I was told you hinted at something backstage, and I went all in. But I didn't see that screenshot, and I didn't mean for this to blow up like it did." Caroline looked at him, her gaze steady but piercing. "Bill, you threw a grenade on live TV without checking the facts. You know how this works. One wrong move, and a person's reputation can be destroyed. Why should I believe this was an accident?" Mar sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because I'm not in the business of fabricating stories. I provoke, sure, but I don't lie. Someone fed me that information, and I want to know who, just as much as you do." She leaned forward, her voice low and even. "Then let's work together. Someone's trying to pit us against each other, and I don't think it's just a troll on X. This is someone with access, with a plan. Are you ready to dig deeper?" Mar smiled, this time genuinely. "I like you, Leavitt. You've got guts. All right, I'm in. But if we're doing this, no games. Full transparency." Caroline extended her hand. "Deal." They shook hands, and in that moment, something shifted. Two adversaries, who had just clashed in front of millions, became unlikely allies. But outside the office, the storm on X was growing, and an unknown enemy was already planning their next move. On the streets, Los Angeles glowed with neon lights, but danger lurked in the shadows. Caroline stepped out of the studio, her breath visible in the cool night air. She knew the truth was close, but reaching it wouldn't be easy. Somewhere in Dallas, thousands of miles away, someone was pulling the strings of this conspiracy. And she wouldn't stop until she unraveled them all. Meanwhile, in a small apartment in suburban Los Angeles, an elderly couple, Jack and Mary, sat in front of their TV, watching a rerun of Mar's segment. Jack, a retired firefighter with a gray beard, shook his head. "This girl, Caroline, she's either a hero or the devil in a skirt. But I'll tell you, Mary, she's not afraid to fight." Mary, knitting a sweater, looked up. "I like that she speaks her mind. But if she really threatened Mar, well, that's too much. I want to know the truth." Jack grinned. "Oh, I think we'll hear more from her. This story's just getting started." The night in Los Angeles was restless. Neon lights flickered over Sunset Boulevard, reflecting in puddles left by a brief rain. Caroline Leavitt stood by a black SUV parked near the back exit of a Real-Time with Bill Maher studio. Her breath steamed in the cool air, her eyes fixed on her phone, where new messages from Nick, her tech specialist, flashed. She could feel the pieces coming together, but time was against her. The scandal on X was gaining momentum, and every new post with #CancelMar threatened to drag her reputation through the mud. Nick's message was brief: server in Dallas. Found the source. This isn't random. Caroline gripped her phone so tightly her knuckles whitened. She knew the fake screenshot was the work of someone with serious resources, possibly even political motives. But who? And why now? Ethan, her aide, glanced around nervously, holding the SUV's door open. Caroline, we need to go. The press is already lurking at the main entrance. If they catch you, it'll be a circus. She shook her head, her voice calm but resolute. I'm not running, Ethan. Not after this. We finish it tonight. Meanwhile, in the studio, Bill Maher sat in his office, scrolling through X posts. His usual bravado had given way to a rare sense of unease. The scandal he'd inadvertently ignited threatened not just his show, but his legacy. He knew accusing Caroline of a threat was reckless, but he hadn't expected it to spark such a firestorm. Sheila, his producer, stood by the door, arms crossed, her expression stern. Bill, you have to fix this, she said. We're losing advertisers and HBO's already calling. If you don't make a statement, they might put the show on hiatus. Maher sighed, leaning back in his chair. I don't do statements, Sheila. That's not my style. But I'll talk to Caroline. If we figure out who set us up, maybe we both come out of this clean. Sheila raised an eyebrow. You really think she'll work with you? After you threw her under the bus on live TV. He smiled, this time without his usual irony. She's smart, and she's not the type to hold a grudge when there's a common goal. I can feel it. Half an hour later, Caroline and Maher met again in his office. The air smelled of old books and tension. Caroline sat across from him, her posture straight, her gaze sharp. Maher looked less confident than usual, but his eyes burned with curiosity. So, he began, tapping his fingers on the desk. Did your tech guy find anything? Caroline nodded, pulling out her phone. The screenshot was uploaded through a VPN, but my guy traced it to a server in Dallas. This isn't some random troll. Someone with access to professional equipment made this fake. And I think it's someone on your team, Bill. Maher frowned, his face darkening. My team? That's a serious accusation, Caroline. I've got people here who've worked with me for years. Then explain why the rumor about my threat came to you through your assistant, she replied, her voice cold but measured. Someone on the inside fed you that story, knowing you'd bite. And you did. Maher opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. He knew she was right. All right, he said finally. I'll talk to the assistant. But if it's not us, then who? You've got enemies, Caroline. A lot of enemies. She gave a faint smile, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Enemies come with the job, but this someone knew how to hit us both where it hurts. This isn't just about me or you. It's about sowing chaos. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Sheila entered, holding a tablet. Her face was pale. You both need to see this. A new post just dropped on X. And it's bad. She turned the tablet, revealing a video that had already racked up thousands of views. It was a grainy security camera recording, supposedly from backstage at the studio. In it, Caroline was seen talking to someone in a dark hallway, her gestures appearing aggressive, her voice sharp, though the audio was muffled. The caption screamed, Leavitt threatens producers. Here's the proof. Caroline froze, her heart skipping a beat. That's not me, she said quietly but firmly. It's a fabrication. I wasn't in that hallway tonight. Maher leaned toward the screen, his eyes narrowing. Hold on. I know that hallway. That's not our studio. It's... Damn, it looks like the old CNN studio in New York. Someone's setting you up, and they're going all in. Caroline clenched her fists, her mind racing. They want me to panic, to lash out and look guilty. But I'm not playing that game. Maher looked at her, his expression a mix of respect and surprise. You're really something, Leavitt. All right, here's what we do. I'll reach out to my contact at HBO to trace the source of this video. You give your tech guy more time. And we go public with this together. She nodded, her gaze unwavering. But not on your show, Bill. On X. Where it started. We tell the truth directly, no middleman. Caroline and Maher agreed to collaborate to uncover the truth behind the fake video and screenshot. They organized a live stream on X, bringing in Nick, who explained in detail how the forgery was created. Nick revealed that the Dallas server belonged to a small PR firm working for a political donor with an interest in discrediting the Trump administration. He also proved the video was edited from archival footage of Caroline at another event, superimposed onto a studio background. The stream went viral. The audience, especially older Americans following the scandal, was thrilled by how Caroline and Mar, despite their differences, united for the truth. Ex-users, from conservatives to liberals, praised their transparency. Jack and Mary, the elderly couple from suburban Los Angeles, watched the stream from their couch. Jack grinned, patting Mary's hand. "I told you, Mary. That girl's a fighter." And Mar, the old grump, finally did something right. Mary nodded, her eyes shining. "It's not over yet, Jack. But it's a start. People are starting to listen." The next morning, Los Angeles woke to clear skies. Caroline sat in a cafe near the studio, sipping an espresso. Her phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, friends, and even a few journalists requesting interviews. She ignored them, staring out the window. The scandal was dying down, but she knew it was only a lull before the next storm. Politics never slept. Mar walked into the cafe, his glasses slipping down his nose. He sat across from her, holding a newspaper. "Well, Leavitt," he said with a faint smile. "We survived. What's next?" Caroline smiled, her eyes gleaming. "We keep telling the truth, Bill. Even when it hurts." He chuckled, but there was respect in his voice. "You're dangerous, you know that? But damn, I'm glad you're on our side." They laughed, and for a moment, the world felt a little brighter. Outside, Los Angeles hummed with its usual rhythm, while far away, in small towns and big cities, people talked about Caroline Mar and the power of one conversation to change the course of events. It was just the beginning, but a beginning with hope.